Of course, also not strong with Peloton. Those shares falling sharply this morning. That's after reporting a larger than expected loss. And the company did point to signs of progress in its turnaround plan, but the optimism did not seem to sway investors, given the reaction that we're seeing in the shares this morning. You see they're off more than 13% right now, Brad.
Yeah, I've been looking into this report here a little bit, Rachelle, and a few things kind of jump out to me as you're seeing shares move lower this morning. One, of course, they're talking about the sequential and one-point investors' direction, of investors' attention in that direction. But year over year, you've got some pretty stark declines here. In total members, that's down 5%. If you're looking specifically at the net connected fitness subscription additions, those additions are down 62% year over year as well. And then even the products revenue, you're seeing that in decline by about 45%. But one thing that I kind of zeroed in on here, especially given some of the partnerships that they've been able to bring on. You think about Amazon, you think about Hilton, and even Dick's Sporting Goods, trying to get into these different capacities where there would either be usership of the devices or purchases of the devices. However, those connected fitness devices in those particular areas of an omni-channel sales approach could come at a promotional or a discounted measure here. And they talked about that kind of on the last page of this earnings call, saying that they're looking to get back to, or not the last page of this earnings call, the final parts of the statement in this earnings call, saying that they're looking to lean in to some of those partnerships, looking for more unit sales and revenue growth. But if those revenue, if that sales and revenue comes at the expense of some of the promotional events like Prime Day that they call out as well, that is going to be growth in the revenue and the sales perhaps, but at what margin? And I think investors are right to kind of zero in on what type of margins we should now expect for this company to bring forward as it's continuing its, what it's calling a turnaround story as well, and that strategy.
And as you mentioned, there's sort of growth at what cost? We're seeing a lot of these markdowns, these discounts, trying to get into different markets when they paired up with Amazon as well. And when you think of Amazon, you think of the existing things that are on there in terms of that space, in terms of the bikes and everything else. There's already tough competition to try and put yourself out there, and especially at the price point that Peloton has, even with the subscriptions. But you see, they did bring on a lot more subscribers, more than the street was expecting. But then you also have to wonder also about the quality of the experience. It's a very different world than when we were in the thick of the pandemic. You had that tight community. People are back in gyms. People have more options now than they have. And people are still waiting to see what's next for Peloton. So even with, beating the street for the most part, investors really still not sold on this turnaround story just yet.
I mean, even at the height of in-home fitness during the pandemic, I went out and bought some rubber bands, Rachelle. I didn't need a Peloton to bring into my studio apartment in Bushwick, Brooklyn at the time. That a personal issue more so than a desire to buy a connected fitness device and resources to do so or not. But I guess at the same juncture now where you've got more focus around getting back into the boutique fitness experiences or getting back into a IRL gym experience as well, Peloton still right now has an issue of where some of the people who purchased those bikes at the onset of the pandemic and at the height of when they were doing more in-home fitness, now offloading them on platforms like eBay. They addressed that in the earnings in the earnings release, saying that the secondary market, they're seeing more Peloton hardware devices make their way there, and former Peloton owners now selling them there, and new all-access members that are now purchasing those and kind of opting into a higher experience, perhaps on the subscription. But still, it's an acknowledgement that yeah, some of these people are churning out, if you will, of the in-home fitness experience and seeing some of those devices sell for even less now, which challenges whether or not Peloton is going to be able to sell them at full price. If somebody's just like, yeah, I can get a previous generation over on eBay for half the cost maybe. So that...
And I will say, I was definitely one of those people who bought when I was like, yeah, let me get this Peloton. And then I remembered, I don't even like biking. What am I doing? But I got caught up in the, let me get fit while I'm at home. No. And I ended up selling mine on Facebook Marketplace. So I'm guilty. I'm one of them.
That is a very noble acknowledgement. Being on a Peloton bike and saying, wait a minute, I don't even like biking. Rachelle, I appreciate you for that.